Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Anchor Conversations podcast. This is Tyler here. Now that I've been gone from Anchor on Sundays for a few weeks, I feel like if you don't know me, I don't know what to say about that, but I feel like I need to introduce myself to people who may be listening to this but not know me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody still knows you.
Well, no, I'm
Let's just,
saying like new people, because you were just
yeah.
telling me like you baptize people that I don't even know on Sunday,
Hmm.
which is awesome,
Yeah.
which is what
Yeah.
you hope for.
Yeah.
But hey, if you
That's
got
true.
baptized on Sunday and you're listening to this,
And you're wondering,
I'm
who
Ty
is this person?
yeah, I'm Tyler. I like long walks on the beach.
Do
Actually, I hate
you?
the beach. No,
I
I
was
hate
gonna
the
say, I
beach.
don't I don't think that you do. I've been to the beach with you. We just seen your sneak at the beach. You didn't seem to love it.
No, I don't like the beach because there's sand and there's no shade,
Hmm.
and I'm the guy who's wearing socks and shoes walking down the beach.
You are a socks and shoes guy. You
I
like
am.
rarely take your socks and shoes off.
Yeah, it's true.
Why? Why? What is the deal with that? Is that like an old habit? Is that something that you grew up like your parents always told you to put your socks and shoes on? Is it polite in your culture? Like, what?
In my culture,
Does
my
your culture
diverse culture.
does your culture mean is that the way that your family grew up? Like the like northern New York, upstate New York? Like, is that the way that they do it up there from your
Mm,
family origins?
I doubt it, but I
All right.
honestly couldn't tell you. I have no idea why I do that.
Yeah, I don't either. It's just you just dawned on me that yeah. We had this discussion. If you're new to the podcast, we had this discussion a while ago about whether you put your socks on one foot, you put your sock on one foot, and then you put that shoe on, and then the other foot, so the other sock on the other foot. And we never had the discussion on like, are you the kind of person that takes your shoes off when you get to someone's house? You just leave them on all the time? Like, what's the deal with that? I don't know. I don't like to have shoes on at all. So if I could have shoes off all the time, I would. But you're kind of a shoe on guy.
I am a
Were
shoe
you
on
are you
guy.
also were you also a coat kid growing up? Like if you went in somewhere, you just leave your coat on, you never took it off.
No, no way. I hate wearing a coat. I hate wearing pants. I'm a shorts on, socks and shoes on. I can't really explain the socks and shoes. I don't know. Other
Yeah,
than I don't like
kind of
to
weird.
like step on things, like you step on a Lego or you step on
Because
like a
everybody has random Legos laying around their house. Watch
you
out for
step
that
on a
Lego,
wet
everybody.
spot. Who knows?
Slipping
Who
on
knows what
it.
you could step in?
Those random banana peels all over the floor. You just don't want to slip on it.
The other thing
Um,
is you're always ready to run, like if you just gotta run away, a house fire, an intruder.
like
I don't
if we're
know.
if we're all of a sudden find ourselves in the Halloween movie and Michael Myers is running after us, at least we have our
Yes.
shoes on. We can
You,
take off. It's Halloween. It's October now, so we have to start thinking about those
you know
things.
what'll happen? If you and I are ever hanging out in a house and Michael Myers shows up, you'll be like, "Hold on, Mr. Myers, don't kill me. I got to put my shoes on," and I'll be around the block already.
And I'd have to tell him, and I'm gonna do sock, sock, shoe, shoe, and just give me 1 second, and then I take off.
And he'll
Yeah.
be confused by that because he's a psychopath, so he clearly does sock shoe. We know that. Like all psychopaths.
Actually, what would happen is you'd run out the door, and I'd run out the door, but I'd step on one of those rocks that's just like randomly in
Yeah,
the middle of,
totally.
and I'd fall
See,
down and be
you
grabbing my
know,
foot. Right. All right. I can see the wisdom in that for sure, in some ways, but I don't know how we start talking about this.
I don't know. It is
Um,
weird. I recognize that it's weird. I'm in many houses for community groups or things like that, and I look down and no one's wearing shoes but me. And I'm like, I'm weird, and I'm sorry for that.
so the thing for me is in the summertime, it's so hot and people keep their houses at different temperatures during the summer. And so like I just like to take my shoes off just in case it's warm because you can cool yourself down without shoes on, socks and shoes on. I don't know. I just like to have my socks off.
I mean, another way to think about that is if your feet are warm and they're sweaty and stinky and you take your shoes off.
Ah, that's why you wear flip-flops.
No, I hate flip-flops. That's the real thing. I don't wear flip-flops. And if you don't wear
Hmm.
flip-flops, then it's weird to take your socks and
That's
your shoes
true.
off. Like, I don't know, it's weird.
That's
But I'm
true.
not a flip-flop guy. Sorry, people.
Mm. I see it. I see it. It makes sense. I don't know how, I really don't know how we got off on that tangent. We get
I
off on a
don't
lot of
know.
tangents here, but that was a really random tangent for sure. Especially because right before we started this, Tyler said, "All right, y'all ready for this?" And we started singing the song. So I thought that's where we were going. We didn't. We went into socks on, shoes on, Michael Myers, October, Halloween. I don't know. Here we go, and we're about ready to talk about the Bible and
No, that's all
whatever.
we had for today. So thanks for joining us.
That'd be amazing. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. Everyone's like, that was a waste of my 5 minutes of my life or whatever it was. That's so funny.
Yeah. All right. Well, we should get into the
For
Bible.
for real.
Yes. Thank you to Jessica Cantrell, your admin, who gets that podcast up early for me so I can listen to the
Yeah.
sermon and have some notes here since we're not there on Sundays right now. So
Yep.
you preached this week from Luke chapter 5, verses 27 through 32, kind of marching on in this one more series. We only have a few sermons left in that series, right?
Yeah, I think there's only two. I think there's
Okay.
next
Wow.
I'm sorry, no, there's three.
Three.
Yep, I'll preach, then Peter preaches, then I preach again. So there's three of
Okay.
us.
Yeah, so we're on the backside of this series, and this week talking about hospitality. Your big idea was that empty chairs are filled through unreasonable hospitality. Um, and I threw some questions together here for you. You started kind of talking about the corny Christian jokes. That joke about the flood and the boat that comes and the
If you
helicopter and
listen,
that.
if you grew up at all around in a Christian home with in a church, you're gonna hear corny Christian jokes. Just that's just the deal. So
It's part of it. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I didn't even grow up in a Christian home, and I say them all the time just because I think it's funny.
You say them for ironic purposes, though. When I was growing up,
Yeah.
it was like, "Hey, this is the greatest joke ever." It's almost like the difference between quote unquote Christian comedians who are kind of just baseline Christian comedians, and then the best comedians out there. There's just, the jokes that you're telling are all really based around church life. So if you're not in church, you're not around that, you're not going to understand anything that's going on.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing, only way cornier for little kids to be telling jokes.
I mean, the other thing, this is a whole conversation on comedy, but some of the best comedy is irreverent comedy. And obviously, you don't have that in a lot of Christian
That's true. That's
comedians or
true.
jokes. There's
It's the
something
It's
about,
the Simpsons Ned Flanders character that's the
yeah.
you just can laugh at yourself because you're like, man, this is
Yes.
so true, right? Yep.
Yeah. But anyway, I thought it would actually be good to start our conversation with kind of honing in on that idea of hospitality. Kind of talk through just a little bit more. Maybe it doesn't have to be a formal definition of hospitality, but kind of help us understand hospitality both kind of theologically, but also practically. Like when you say hospitality, what is that? Explain it to like a kid. What is hospitality?
I think hospitality is welcoming people into your I was gonna say welcoming people into your orbit. I don't know if kids understand what orbit is, but like welcoming people into your life. Sometimes we live I remember when I was a kid, and like in high school, we would play and we'd play games. We'd usually like have a hacky sack or something like that. We'd be taking road trips. We'd be playing a game. You're in a circle, and if we didn't want other people to join it, we would just say, "Hey, this game's locked." That was kind of our thing. A game's locked. It was just a jerky way to be like, "We don't really want you to play with us." And so you're all facing each other in a circle, and people are like, "Get out! You can't join this circle." And I think a lot of times that's how we kind of function. I think we just function if we're not, I should say, if we're not careful and intentional, as if like we have this orbit, and we can do this as a church or individually. And if people want to join it, sometimes it's like, yeah, I don't know, like I'm more comfortable without you here. And I think people feel that. And so hospitality is just saying, hey, welcoming people into your orbit, into your life, and just saying, I want you to join me, or I want you to be around me. I want you to spend time here with me. It's just a welcoming posture. It's a posture of saying, hey, we're going out to lunch. Like, would you want to join us? Hey, would you want to come over for dinner? It's opening up your home. Would be a one way if you own a home or your apartment or something like that. It's inviting people to places that you're going to go. So if you know you're going to go to get coffee with a bunch of guys or girls, hey, this person doesn't know anybody. Like, I'll just invite you in. We're talking specifically about that with unbelievers. So trying to say like, I want I want unbelievers to be in the orbit of Christianity. And I'm going to be the conduit for that. I'm going to be the person that's going to say, you want to know what a Christian looks like? Hey, come into my world. Like, I'd love for you to spend time with me, because I want you to meet the Jesus that I worship because he's the savior of my life. And I think he can be the savior of yours. And I just love for you to see that. It's just being a welcoming person and having that kind of posture. That's kind of how I'd probably define it. Would you add anything to that?
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I think the idea of you did a good job drawing a distinction between like we used the word inviting, but I think in your sermon you really drew a distinction between inviting and pursuing. Like an invitation is alone is not hospitality. Hospitality is a pursuit, really, of like I want to do life with you. I want to welcome you in. I want to be with you, and I think about I was sitting at the table last night in the home we're working in. So I'm in someone else's home, these girls, I'm in their home, but I wanted to draw them out and have a conversation with them. So I'm asking them questions like, "Hey, what was good about your day today? What'd you enjoy? What didn't you like?" And in that moment, they're being hospitable to me by having me in their home, and I'm being hospitable to them by trying to draw them out and say, "Hey, I'm not just here, like staring at each other. Like I want to do life with you. I want to get to know you." So, and you did that in your sermon. I felt like, and you might not use that word pursuit, but really, I think that's what you were getting at, and some of those ideas of trying to not just say, "Hey, come into my house and don't use the bathroom, don't have a drink of water." No, yeah, don't do anything. Yeah, I guess you can come in. That's invitation merely, but hospitality is really a pursuit. So yeah, which is what God does with us. So let's go back to that corny Christian joke idea and that one that you talked about, the flood and the boat. I think it's two boats and a helicopter or whatever. There's probably like 100 different versions of that same joke. But the idea is God is not providing some like mystical salvation. He is providing very ordinary means of salvation for that person in the flood in the joke, and you were drawing that to these opportunities to share the gospel. Like we're waiting on God to show up with some mystical situation or whatever when maybe He's already sent a boat and that
Yeah.
boat is sitting right there.
Yeah.
So what might that boat be in our lives or that helicopter be in our lives? Like, what is that kind of easy opportunity that might be right in front of us? What's the boat for us?
Yeah. I would say, I mean, let me just maybe draw broader context and then just go to specific what we're talking about. Because I think that we could look at any part of our life. So if you're listening to this right now, you're driving in your car, you're working out, you're on a run, whatever you're doing, you could go to any part of your day today. And if you were intentional about it, you could look around and watch what God's doing around you, opportunity wise, in anything. There's an opportunity currently right now. I want you to just like if you're listening to you are listening to this obviously. So you're listening to this. Think about something in your life right now that is an opportunity the Lord's given you to trust him. It's just that's a boat. It's an opportunity to trust him to get into it. So okay, Lord, I'm gonna trust you here. I've been praying big things. I don't know. Maybe this is an answer here. Um, it could be anything like that. It could be an opportunity to praise him. Like think about it. What has God done in your life that you've just forgotten to thank him for? There's an opportunity to give him thanks. So like I think we have like globally we have opportunities constantly to be trusting the Lord, to be applying the scriptures, to be walking that out. We're specifically talking about sharing our faith with others and actually creating intentional opportunities for relational situations for sharing our faith. So, one of the real ways I think that we're trying to lean in and help you guys overcome the fear of sharing your faith with others is to say it doesn't have to be me standing on a street corner proclaiming a gospel that's mean-spirited, or it doesn't have to be me, to use a big word that only learned because somebody said it once. I didn't know what it was pontificating, which just means considering or thinking. It just me thinking about all these deep things and going, I'm going to talk about the dinosaurs. Like we don't have to do any of that. I think really where it begins is, am I just intentional with relationships? That's an opportunity. Who's God put in your orbit, in your sphere of life? It could be your neighbor, that doesn't know Jesus. It could be somebody, at the Starbucks that you've been talking with. It could be the barista that you continue to meet. It could be when you go out to lunch at the same place. If you're like me, I like to eat at the same places. I know Tyler's similar to that. So, you go to the same place and you're like, you meet somebody that's waiting on you and that person's always there. It's like maybe this person's the person. I don't know, but let me get an opportunity. It could be someone at the gym. It could be a coworker. It could be a classmate. Those are all opportunities. Those are the boats. God's just saying, hey, they're right here. Um, and will you take the opportunity to actually be hospitable to them and just invite them into your world? I think that's the question mark. And actually, that's an easy way, I think, to take the opportunities. And we see that again. We see that in Luke. I mean, Jesus did that with Matthew. It wasn't rocket science. He just said, "Hey, you want to follow me?" He said it more of a command. Hey, follow me. But it was like, hey, why don't you follow me now? And Matthew was at a spot where he was like, yeah, I'm not getting joy where I'm at. Let me go see what's that life's like. And then he's like, this is great. And so he just did that to his buddies. They had a banquet. They probably had alcohol there. They're hanging out. I always think about this with Jesus. I'm like, Jesus was around a lot of people that were drinking alcohol. Who was getting drunk? I don't know. But it didn't, there's nothing in the text that Jesus was like, hey guys, I'm a rabbi, and actually I'm God. Can you guys not be messy around me? Like, I'd rather you not be messy, just be kind of have it all together, everyone. Like I'm here. I wonder if we think too much like that. Ooh, messy people are tough. And Jesus is like, well, again, he says in the text, I didn't come to heal the healthy. The healthy don't need a doctor. It's the sick, the ones that are messy that need to be healed. And so, um, yeah, I think that those were the boats or the helicopters. It's just being able to look and say, hey, the Lord has given me opportunity. It's all around me. I have neighbors on all sides. Many of them don't know the Lord. And so am I just willing to take the step of faith? And maybe it's even easier than a step of faith. It's just a step of selflessness, getting out of a selfish mentality where I just want to come home and not engage people, especially if you're an introvert like I am sometimes. Sometimes I love extrovertedness. Sometimes it's just hard for me. So I have to really step out of that and go, yeah, I'm gonna take the risk, and go for it. So anyway, that's how I would kind of think about that.
Yeah, I would add to that, any of us who are parents, you got boats floating around your house as
Yeah,
far
that's
as,
true.
opportunities to share your faith.
And some of you have spouses.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
people you're living with that don't know. Some of you have parents. Yeah. So, but I think your kids are great opportunities too. And I would just say this as well, Tyler, to jump off that. If you're in kids ministry, man, there's too many of us that think of kids ministry as babysitting. It's the most sharing your faith, gospel proclaiming, missionary focused thing we do as a church. And
Hmm.
that's not an exaggeration. You have little sinners in that room, many of which have not grasped the gospel yet. They don't understand it. They've been around church. And if you're in kids' ministry, you're not babysitting, you're missionaries to those kids every Sunday. They're hearing the gospel through you. And one day, if they can make the Lord their own, they're probably going to look at you and realize, maybe they don't say this, but they've heard the gospel through you as much as with other parents too. And if you're parents, you're the primary one. But man, like don't undervalue some of those things as parents or as kids, working in kids ministry or youth ministry.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, if you're, listening to this and not serving in the church and you're thinking, man, what are those opportunities that God's given me to share my faith? Well, what Jason just said, children's ministry, Anchor Kids needs people. Anchor Youth always needs people. Those are opportunities right in front of you. Those are non-Christians that are among us that might speak the Christian lingo. They might seem like really good kids, but that is not death to life necessarily, right? And so it's important that we see that. And yeah, that could be that boat. You know, you're standing in a flood of brokenness in the world, and you think, okay, where is, God, give me this miraculous opportunity to share my faith. They're there every Sunday morning. They're in class. They're really fun to hang out with, and a lot of times really disruptive. Um, but it should be a little bit easier now because my kids aren't there on Sunday, so you're welcome.
Spit, spit four kids out of the mix.
Yeah. But no, those are, and I would say too, like those mystical opportunities for gospel or for faith sharing. Also with those people, maybe you already have that person in mind. You're thinking, when do I have the gospel conversation? When do I have the faith conversation? I would just reframe the way we think about that and think about it as an ongoing conversation, not one conversation among many. It's actually the same advice I give to parents when you think about having like the sex talk with your kids. It's actually not one talk. It's a series of conversations. It's over time. A little nugget here, a little conversation there, a little explanation here, whatever it may be. And I think as we think about sharing our faith with those around us, it's the same thing. It's not like, okay, now I'm having all the other conversations are not gospel conversations, but this one is. All of them are opportunities to just share little nuggets of faith. And then, yeah, hopefully you have one that's maybe more substantial, a little bit deeper, maybe, where you can be more clear on the finer, edges of the gospel or whatever it may be. But every conversation is an opportunity to show I am someone indwelt by the living God, and He wants a relationship with you. Those are all gospel conversations. Those are all faith sharing opportunities. Those are all little boats that God's providing for us to share
Yeah.
our faith.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump back to kind of this idea of hospitality. Um, I feel like, and we've talked about this on here before, but I tend towards cynicism. So it could just be my cynicism.
What?
Um,
No, you don't. I've never heard of that before. Really? That's
yeah,
a it's a
yeah.
huge it's a surprise. That's so
So
good.
if this is just my cynical opinion, you can shoot it down. But it seems to me like our culture in the East Valley, our culture in kind of, upper middle class America, um, actually throws some hurdles in the way of having real hospitality. We live in a pretty shallow culture. We live in a pretty selfish culture, and neither of those are compatible with hospitality. So, are there any aspects of our kind of East Valley culture that you see in particular that make hospitality difficult to do? Things that we might need to push back on. Discipleship is all counter formation. So, what does discipleship look like in the area of hospitality as we think about our culture? I know that's a big question, but any thoughts on that?
I think the biggest one that comes to mind is foregoing comfortability. I think that hits a number of different, like in terms of that's a very general thing that hits specifics. But I think to invite people into your sphere or your orbit or whatever you want to say, and to be hospitable into your home, to go out to forego dinner alone, watching Netflix, um, to go out with people you don't necessarily know, or maybe your neighbors who aren't, you just are not, you don't have a strong relationship with, and you're just going to be a little bit of work. I think a lot of times, like we push back on that, and I understand why. We're busy, we have busy days, kids are going 10 different directions, school's hard, you're doing homework. Um, and so like to give up a couple hours to do that is uncomfortable. Um, and we have to push back against, I think, that idol of comfortability as a Christian. Jesus never says, um, follow me and your life's going to be comfortable. I don't think that it means that we have to be these weird, like, somehow, um kind of people that go out and look for uncomfortability just for the sake of being uncomfortable, and that pleases the Lord. But I do think it means that if it means that we would befriend somebody who maybe isn't in our social circles, fiscal circles, is foreign to us just because of the culture dynamic. We grew up in the East Valley. They grew up in Central Phoenix. I don't understand them. And so it's just hard. That's just hard. I'd rather just spend time with my friends that I've been around with for 20 years. That's where churches go to die. And that's not an over exaggeration. I think the gospel, and as we think about mission, has to be we are looking outside. It's why our value is relentlessly outward. We could make that value, and maybe there is something of it. We could make that same value unreasonably hospitable. I think it's the same thing. And maybe that's a better phrase, but I think relentlessly outward is like we don't want to just grow inside. We don't want to just stay like, hey, we're going to be insiders here. We want to push back against insider culture. We want to be looking at the outside, welcoming people in, whether that's Christians who are coming from a different church. We want them to feel like, hey, this church is just as much yours as it is ours. And non-Christians that come in and they're going, why are you guys so desirous to welcome us here? Um, and I think it's because, hopefully it's because we recognize that, hey, we have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, if we're going to actually live a life of mission. The the East Valley, and I would just say this: I've lived on the East Coast, I've lived in the Midwest, I've lived in Phoenix. Everybody's got that. Everywhere I've lived has that something where there's a comfortability they have to push back against. On the East Coast, everybody's usually home by 5:30, and they just have family time every night. Well, it's uncomfortable to say, hey, we're gonna go out with somebody at 8. Like nothing's open at 8. It's just like you don't do that. Which in some points that's kind of nice, but it's also one of the reasons I don't like living out there because I like having life outside of 8 o'clock. But then in the Midwest, they're super hospitable on the outside. But then as soon as you leave, they're like, I hate those people. It's like fake. It's like Google fake Midwest hospitality, and you're going to see that's exactly what everybody knows it. So you have to get back to the uncomfortability of like, I don't want to just be cynical about this. So I think that for us, it's just the uncomfortability of wanting to just be comfortable in everything, financially, stable, so we live in a gated community, which is nothing wrong with that, but like that if we're not careful, that can also be a heart issue because we live then as if the gates to our hearts and our orbit are also closed. And so, again, nothing wrong with living in gated communities. Tyler lives in one right now. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a matter of we also can't let that affect our gospel mission to say, hey, look, no, we live in this nice neighborhood, it's fine, but we're going to go out and spend some time with people outside of this thing and make sure that our hearts are also open to others and the orbits of our life are also open to that and go forward. So that would probably be the idol that I would push against the most. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with all that. Yeah, I would say, a couple things I would add. We these are a couple of intentional choices. I think the culture that we live in is in some ways invites us to be really passive and just participate in a lot of different things. And so you just do stuff because everyone's doing it. It's almost like when you were in high school and, your parents are like, why are you doing your hair that way? Everyone's doing it. That's kind of the culture today, even for adults. Why do you watch that much TV? That's just what everyone does. Like, why do you spend that much money on fill in the blank? That's just what everyone has a brand new fill in the blank. We just all do it. And I think if we're going to be hospitable, we have to actually be intentional about putting aside time and foregoing other things to spend time if we're going to be uncomfortable, right? Like you've got to commit to that. You've got to put that on the schedule. If you're someone who color codes your calendar, maybe it's got its own color. Like we've got to have, call it purple. I don't know. We've got to have some purple on the calendar this week. And that's going to be time where we are intentionally having someone at our table. We're doing the 100 Tables initiative. Like we are we are intentionally spending time with someone who's far from Jesus, and it's on my calendar because if we don't make time for it, we just will not do it if we're not intentional. The other thing that maybe is a next level of this would be like we have to be really careful to exist as real people and not just online. So one of the things that can be challenging to hospitality is if we're online a lot and we see, updates on social media, we see a lot of like pictures and someone posts a lot, we can feel like we know them or like we're actually spending time with them when the reality is we don't know them at all potentially. I remember before I got off of social media, this happened. I thought that I was kind of up to date with a friend because we were friends on Facebook and I saw everything going on in his life. His wife mostly posted, but it was like, yeah, I have a pretty good track of what's going on in their lives. And then I had lunch with him. I was like, hey, dude, let's get lunch. We haven't talked it had been a couple of years. Let's get lunch together. And I remember when he walked into the restaurant and I saw him, I was like, dude, you got older. Like, you put on a few pounds. And so had I, obviously, too. But it was like, whoa, I thought that I knew you because online I was kind of keeping track, I guess, sort of, but I don't know you. And as we talked, it was like, man, I didn't know more than half of what was going on in his life. But I had been kind of lulled by social media into the sense of like, no, I know you. And so I think we have to be careful with that. I
Yeah.
think that social media can be a hospitality killer because we think we know people when we don't,
Yeah.
you know? Um,
Yeah. First of all, thanks for telling that story about me. So we
yeah, definitely
yeah.
gained a few pounds. More
Appreciate
than a
that.
few.
Thanks for
More
calling,
than a few.
giving us. Appreciate that. No, I think that's actually good. I think that's a good another addendum to this as we think about it. But I would just say like if you're listening, as you listen to this and think about your life, um, what is it for you? What's the hindrance? Like what is stopping you? So we've given you a card that says who's your one. I would say one, if you haven't written a name down on there, you should do that. So it's an easy way to start and just start praying for that person. We talked about a couple weeks ago, just the gospel reality. If you can, give it, sharing your story with somebody. If you confess your mouth, Jesus Lord, and believe in your heart God raised from the dead, you will be saved. What's your testimony? Thinking about that, sharing with that. Join the 100 Tables Initiative. I mean, we're trying to give you really easy, practical handles to begin. This is just beginning at the beginning. So it's trying to figure out how do you view the opportunities God's given you and how do you act on them? There is someone in your life who doesn't know Jesus. And if there's not, you have to go find it. So, again, we Tiffany and I started going to a gym. Other people have just intentionally gone to the same restaurant. Other people go to the dog park. Some other people go, they're trying to um go to the library. I mean, there's a lot of different places that you can go. You can just go outside, get some lawn chairs or get some chairs outside, and as you're having a glass of wine at night or whatever you do, a soda, what I don't know what it is, but do it out front. Nobody does that in Phoenix. First of all, I get it. Right now it's 105, but when it gets cooler, nobody does that in Phoenix. People go in they as before they even get out of their car, the garage door closes. So go sit out front, and just talk to people. Use Halloween actually as an opportunity to do that. Some people don't celebrate Halloween. Maybe this is you, and you kind of like turn all your lights off, and you don't want people bothering you. Well, maybe this is an opportunity for you to show hospitality by going out front, even if you don't love the Halloween holiday. I get why some people don't. Don't see it as a Halloween holiday. See it as your neighbors are coming to your house to talk to you. And so just engage them in conversation. And maybe you have a conversation, you're like, hey, we'd love to get some coffee, or we're gonna sit out here like we sit outside. Come spend time with us if you ever want to. Like bring over a lawn chair. We'd love to hang out with you. I just think that we have to be intentional about that stuff. So we're trying to give you some real specific handles, both the Who's Your One card and the 100 Tables initiative to roll on this. Join it. Do both. Do both those things and spend time in prayer. This week we're talking about prayer, just praying continuously for those that don't know Jesus. So it goes along with it too.
Yeah, let me draw these two things together real quick as we close. So one of the ways that I've sought to do this, we talked about this a little bit, but for the last number of years was us coaching in duo football. That was a way to go and just be a
Yeah.
consistent presence in the lives of kids who need the love of Jesus. Um, and whenever I was doing, I'm not great at like consistently praying for people I'm not seeing often. But when I would be in the football season, I'm praying for these kids very often. And
Hmm.
then I have pictures of them afterwards, our team picture and stuff, so I can pray for them. And this last Sunday was our first Sunday on at a house here at Sunshine Acres. These kids that we've coached for years. This is our first Sunday on, so we were in the worship service in the chapel service with the kids. Kind of, you all sit as a family, as a house family, and on one right next to me was one girl who I've coached for the last probably 3 years and prayed for a ton. And right in front of me was another girl that I coached last year and prayed for a ton. And then on the other side of me was another girl who I haven't coached, but I've been around a lot at football. Actually, you've coached her quite a bit. But these are all kids that I've prayed for that for the last 8 years I've seen as those boats, those gospel opportunities, right, that God's provided. And here I was worshiping Jesus alongside of them. And all it's been is just a consistent following the Lord, following the
Mm.
Lord, following the Lord, praying for them. And those two things together, consistently showing up with the love of Jesus, consistently praying as best we can. If you're like me, you'll be inconsistently consistent, but you do the best you can. And who knows what God does? You know, who knows where you'll be with those
Yeah.
people? That's up to Him.
Yeah.
But just to share that kind of anecdote, is really powerful. We were singing, um, I don't know the title of the song. It's probably "Great Are You, Lord," but that's the line in the song. "Great are you, Lord," and I just thought singing the song alongside these girls that I've prayed so much for, man, God is good. This whole sharing your faith thing is really cool. you know, to get to see someone go from, pretty chaotic circumstances to singing alongside of you, great are you, Lord. And that's the goal. That's what we're trying to do.
That's good.
To be there for people, to pray for them, to let God do his work and just be the conduit for that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And if you want, honestly, if you want to be a part of duo football, let us know.
Yeah.
They need officials, um, and it's kids from the community, like our kids playing it. But then it's also a lot of kids from the acres mostly, who are they just need people in their life who love Jesus and going to model, healthy family relationships and dynamics. And so if your kids like to play, if you like to coach, it's not about winning and losing. So if you're going to go in there and you're like, I'm going to win this whole game, it's probably not for you. It's really about teaching kids life skills to try and help understand, hey, when you lose, it's okay, and cope with that and deal with that. Because a lot of the kids they're emotionally regular, you know, and so we're just trying to figure out how to help kids and serve them. And so it's going in there. We need a lot of people. So anyway, if you're interested in doing something like that, let us know. You'll get to see Tyler every week, in January and February anyway. So, yeah, I'm grateful for everybody. Grateful, Tyler. I'm thankful that you're still doing the podcast. It's fun to hang out with you and talk about your shoes.
I'm wearing shoes right now, by the way. I,
Yeah, I'm
I'm
not.
in.
My shoes are off.
I am
We're-
in my bedroom in my house, and my socks and shoes are on right now. For all those wondering.
uh, that's not a surprise at all. I'm in my bedroom talking to you here, and my socks are definitely off. I haven't, yeah, and I'm not going to put them on unless I go out, have to go somewhere. No.
All right. Well,
All right,
with
everybody.
that,
With that,
if you
well,
have your socks and shoes on or not, we love you. We're grateful for you.
yeah, either way, it's all good. But I'm looking forward to seeing you all on Sunday, and we're looking forward to chatting with you again next week on this podcast. So we'll see you soon.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye bye.